Welcome to House Churches. We're a channel completely dedicated to helping believers grow in faith through simple, Christ-centered fellowship right in homes and small groups. You know, the early Christians, they met from house to house for prayer, for worship, Bible study, discipleship, and just pure encouragement. And here on this channel, we explore exactly how those exact same principles can be applied today to build strong, truly authentic Christian communities. Here you're going to discover house church principles, Bible studies, discipleship training, and tons of resources for prayer and spiritual growth. We also cover family ministry, home fellowship ideas, evangelism, outreach strategies, and really just practical Christian living. Today's explainer, though, is a profound look at the absolute resilience of underground faith. Specifically, we're focusing on the hidden church in modern Iran. It's a fascinating story, so let's jump right in.
I want you to imagine something for a second. What if changing your mind about religion was treated legally as treason? Imagine waking up in a reality where your deeply held personal beliefs aren't just culturally frowned upon, but are literally punishable by law. Well, for hundreds of thousands of people in Iran right now, that's not a thought experiment. It's their daily reality. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the hidden world beneath Iran's public surface. We really want to understand how faith actually survives when it's forced entirely into the shadows. And we're going to explore the incredible resilience it takes to just maintain hope in the face of absolute state control.
Here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover the demographic shift, the criminalization of freedom, how the house churches work, the tactics of oppression, digital sanctuaries, and finally, global advocacy.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Iran's hidden demographic shift. Okay, so there is a massive, and I mean massive, discrepancy when it comes to what the Iranian people actually believe versus what we're told. The Iranian government officially claims that 99.5% of its population is Muslim. But here's the thing about authoritarian regimes. Traditional, face-to-face polling often just measures fear. I mean, if the cost of telling the truth is ending up in prison, well, naturally people are going to give the safe, state-approved answer, right? But when the Gaman Research Group managed to conduct a highly secure, completely anonymous digital survey of 50,000 Iranians, the real truth came out. Actually, only 32.2% identify as Shiite Muslim, while a staggering 46.8% have transitioned over to secular or non-religious identities. It reveals this massive, large-scale religious deconstruction that is happening entirely out of the public eye.
And despite this huge shift away from the state-sponsored religion, the people of Iran remain incredibly spiritual. This deep openness has actually fueled an unprecedented surge in Christianity. Independent estimates are now suggesting there could be up to 1 million hidden Christian converts inside Iran. To put that into perspective for you, right before the 1979 revolution, there were maybe a few hundred. Today, totally hidden from the world's view, Iran is quietly home to one of the fastest-growing churches on the entire planet.
Moving right along to Section 2, criminalizing religious freedom and the heavy cost of conversion. To really grasp this, we have to understand how the law actually works over there, and why this booming, million-strong network absolutely must remain underground. In Iran, the legal system just assumes, by default, that all ethnic Persians are Muslim. Leaving that faith is considered apostasy, which is the act of abandoning one's religion. And legally, that's historically viewed as a capital offense, literally punishable by death. Now, actual executions for apostasy are a bit rarer today, mostly because of severe international backlash, but state interrogators still constantly weaponize the threat of the death penalty. They use it as psychological warfare to force compliance, to extract false confessions, and just to terrorize believers during questioning. And while the government loves to go on the world stage and claim they respect religious freedom, back home they operate a very strict two-tier system. Recognized ethnic Christians, like the Armenians and Assyrians, are technically allowed to practice, but they're heavily restricted and absolutely forbidden from holding any services in Persian, the national language. Meanwhile, Persian converts, they face a total ban. The state uses Article 500 of their penal code to prosecute these entirely peaceful converts. And get this, they aren't even tried as religious dissenters. Instead, they're labeled and prosecuted as national security threats and political spies who are trying to undermine the regime. It's totally wild.
Let's dive into Section 3, inside the underground house churches and how these networks operate. Now, before we look at their specific survival methods, I just want to pause and say, if you're feeling drawn to this incredibly authentic model of early Christian community, we have tools for you. Are you interested in starting a house church and want to get practical tools and biblical teaching to help you grow? Join our community today to learn, grow, and transform. You can head over to school.com/Tyrannus-Hall-Bible-College-1931/about.
Also, if you want to make money today, check out our affiliate signup at pnmoneymaking.com/affiliate-signup. And you can get all our fantastic ebooks and PDF slides over at pnmoneymaking.com/shop. All right, let's get back to it. How do these Iranian house churches actually function under such insane, continuous pressure?
Well, they survive through absolutely strict operational security. Because public Persian-speaking churches are 100% illegal, they have to gather informally in private homes. To avoid tipping off neighborhood informants, which are everywhere, members have to carefully stagger their arrival times. So from the outside, it just looks like a casual gathering of friends dropping by one. And this is crucial. If the group starts getting too large, they immediately split it up into two completely separate locations. Decentralization is literally their ultimate defense against state surveillance. By ensuring there's no central headquarters and no mega congregation, they make it nearly impossible for the intelligence services to actually locate and stamp them out.
What's so fascinating is how this movement grows. It's entirely organic. There are 0 public buildings, absolutely no billboards, no advertising whatsoever. The church planters share their faith very, very cautiously, and they lean entirely on deeply trusted personal relationships. When the stakes are this high, absolute trust isn't just nice to have, it is essential for survival. And because of this specific dynamic, you actually often see whole family units converting together at the same time. This safely eliminates the huge risk of an outsider or even just a distant relative reporting the group to the secret police.
And the risks for these families? They are astronomical. Authoritarian states will criminalize totally everyday behavior just to keep the population in a constant state of vulnerability and fear. For example, simply owning a Bible that's been translated into Persian, that can lead to your immediate arrest. Taking communion? That's legally treated as illegal alcohol consumption, which can be punished by physical flogging. Even just gathering peacefully in your own living room to celebrate Christmas has been known to trigger massive, violent state raids. That brings us to Section 4, the specific tactics of oppression used by the state.
$150,000. That is an absolute fortune. And it's an astronomical bail demand that the state uses to systematically extort and bankrupt these families. When a house church member gets arrested, the state forces the family to surrender their property deeds just as collateral for temporary release. Once they're out on bail, they are heavily monitored and deeply pressured to just flee the country altogether. And if they do flee, the government legally confiscates their home. So they're essentially stealing the family's generational wealth while simultaneously eliminating a religious dissenter from their society, all without ever having a trial.
But the abuse goes way beyond financial ruin. We really have to acknowledge the severe, often deniable, psychological warfare tactics they use inside these detention centers. Believers routinely endure prolonged solitary confinement, intense sleep deprivation, and just horrific threats against their spouses and children, all designed to force them to recant their faith. And honestly, one of the cruelest methods they use is the deliberate denial of vital medical care. By withholding necessary medicine, the authorities can inflict severe physical pain without leaving any obvious, documentable marks of a physical beating. They are actively trying to break the spirits of aging and vulnerable prisoners. It is heartbreaking. And we can't forget, the persecution isn't solely coming from the secret police. There's also the devastating reality of clan oppression. Because this is an honor-shame culture, families themselves will often violently punish their own family members just to restore their social reputation once a conversion becomes known in the community. Female converts in particular face terrifying, highly gendered risks. Under domestic family law there, if their faith is discovered by the broader family, they can be subjected to forced divorce, they can be physically locked inside their homes, and they can be legally stripped of all custody rights over their very own children.
Section 5. Digital sanctuaries and the role of technology.
Despite all this darkness, cutting-edge technology is actually acting as an invisible shield for these believers. Isolated seekers will first connect via custom, highly secure VPNs that totally mask their digital identity and location from state monitors. And because talking directly to a human pastor is often way too dangerous right at the beginning, many rely on asking deep theological questions to highly advanced Christian AI platforms. Eventually, as they grow, they'll join virtual churches. These are digital prayer rooms where they can safely experience real community and discipleship in total anonymity, all just radiating from the glow of their smartphones.
But it's not just new tech. They rely heavily on older tech too. Satellite television provides this incredible, uncensorable, 24/7 lifeline of theology and specialized trauma counseling. When the Iranian government deliberately shuts down the national internet, which they do to block outside information or suppress protests, traditional satellite dishes just completely bypass those modern state firewalls. They broadcast hope directly into living rooms, and they don't have to rely on local internet infrastructure at all. It's brilliant. Finally, Section 6, Global Advocacy and International Action.
All of this leads us to the agonizing threat of something called refoulement. When fleeing believers actually manage to escape into transit countries seeking asylum, they aren't automatically safe. They very often get stuck in these severely backlogged immigration systems for years, just living in constant, agonizing limbo. Tragically, some face refoulement, which is the illegal act of a refugee being deported back to the exact country where they face severe torture or death. So merely crossing a border does not guarantee their survival.
And this right here is exactly why global advocacy is so incredibly essential. Organizations work tirelessly to painstakingly document these hidden abuses, effectively stripping away the regime's anonymity. They take this hard data and use it to cite international human rights violations, specifically under the ICCPR treaty. This evidence is then weaponized on the global stage to demand targeted international sanctions against specific corrupt judges and intelligence officials. Plus, it's used to pressure governments all over the world to reopen legal refugee pathways, which provides a safe, official means to rescue these persecuted minorities from imminent danger.
I want to leave you with this final, powerful thought. True religious freedom means the right to choose, change, and share one's faith. Permitting a minority group to exist only if they remain strictly segregated in silence? That is not freedom, it is containment. Remember, if you are interested in starting a house church, getting practical tools and biblical teaching to help you grow, join our community today to learn, grow, and transform. Head over to the school link we mentioned or grab our ebooks at pnmoneymaking.com/shop. Thank you for joining us today. Join us next week for more exciting learning. Check Content tab here on our channel to enjoy our podcast